1997, the world of professional wrestling was the hottest it had ever been. The NWO, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, D-Generation X, you name it, professional wrestling was it. But in the mat room at Henry Clay, the Blue Devils were doing their own thing, man. They had 3 in the finals in 1997. Our guest here is a 2-time state champion. Sir, if you would, tell us who you are.
Hello, I'm David Moore.
And your 1996 state championship review video is on the channel. And of course, this is your 97 video. So, ma'am, coming into the 97 season, you're coming off of a state championship. I've made the joke in other videos in the 90s and even up through the 2000s. We always didn't used to have one of these in our pocket. We didn't have information at our fingertips. But information, though, was still kind of available. For those of you that know, we had this thing called ICQ. I think MSN Messenger or AOL Messenger, one of them was around. So word could get around, just not as fast. We still had phones. Yes, kids, we didn't grow up, talking through 2 cups and a string or whatever, having to use the Pony Express to send text messages. But when you walk into a gym, were you still kind of like, I don't want to say an unknown, but did people know who you were? Could you kind of stay anonymous until the whistle blew, or how did it go for you back then?
Well, I guess in 97, I got more recognized because of what I had done in 96. And then, even though during the season you're wrestling with just your teammates, a lot of the reason why we got good was the summer wrestling. And so you would wrestle with other kids from different schools, whether it be in Lexington, or a lot of times we would go to Woodford County. And you gotta give Woodford County props for helping Kentucky wrestling and putting the repetition in. And so I have plenty of memories. And I used to play soccer, and this is a really good memory. So Ian Horn, multiple time, 3-time state champion, me and him would play on the same soccer team. And then we would also wrestle that summer in Woodford County. And so you just get to know people that aren't on the same teams, and you get to know people that are standing out. And as we start getting older, closer to our senior year, I got more respect because of just the people I was with and the people I was wrestling. Like Ian was really good. I was a year older than him, and he was younger, and he was a stud. You'd see people in Woodford County, but then we would go with Coach Carr, and he would take us to like cadets. I remember going to get a cadet. I remember Coach Carr taking us to junior nationals and us watching the first UFC in his van, being like, what's going on? This dude with the gi is shooting a double leg. It's like there's all these memories. And so, you got to give props to just the off-season wrestling and the people you meet. But then if you do that, then you get respect for doing that. And then I think that's what helped me get just more recognition my senior year, because people knew I had been working at it.
Man, and just real quick, let's go over the 1997 state champions, because we have officially, we put our stamp on it that 2014 by far is the best overall state finals as far as what people done in high school, collegiately. Your Austin Myers, your Sean Fowles, Brock Irvins. We could go. David Carr was in that.
David Carr, that was great to watch this year.
I mean, that's just some of Nathan Boston, #1 in the nation from Woodford County. We go on and on, but 2014 is the best. But 1997, I think if it's not second, it's tied for second. And let's go over some of these names here, the state champions. Dave Kopfleisch from St. Xavier. Dan Carmen from Henry Clay. Josh Priest from Sheldon Clark. Chris Dunn, Woodford County, 3-timer. Jeremy Rhodes from Sheldon Clark, 2-timer. Mike Fields from Scott. Pat Zislowski from Oldham County. Joe Carr Jr. from Woodford. Ian Horn, 3-timer. Jeremy Chapman from Ashland. Jared Combs from Scott. You at 189. Justin Sainer from Campbell County. and then Livingston and his backflip at heavyweight. So just some of those names, man, that's an all-star lineup of state champions. I mean, it truly is. And not just the wrestling, but some of the like just the presence that they have. JoJo, Livingston, Ian, yourself. I mean, Dan, Chris Dunn. Great wrestling and great reputations. And it takes, all 14 of you to come together and be like, because some years, I'm not trying to sound any certain way, but some years there's one or two people that are like, okay, this dude's a stud, everybody else, great matches, whatever. But 97, man, is from 103 to heavy is loaded all the way through. Did you guys realize that at the time? This is like one of the best wrestling classes Kentucky's ever, or state finals, I should say, Kentucky's ever had.
I mean, it was tough maybe to recognize it in the moment because I was participating in it. But now looking back on it and seeing just how things have played out, I think I can appreciate just the presentation of talent that was there, and just that was in the tournament, because there were so many people that were just all state that made, it just felt like it was a loaded tournament, not just like a loaded weight class, but it just felt like it was a good year for Kentucky wrestling.
Yeah, man, it's phenomenal. And of course, you mentioned Ian Horn. His review videos are on the channel as well. Earlier in your 96 video, we mentioned Hank Penner winning the 95 state championship. Ian in 96 beat Hank in the finals. And then this year, he wrestles Brian King from Union County. So, I mean, just a phenomenal year. But let's talk about your 97, 189-pound bracket. You start off the tournament with a 3-minute and 28-second fall over Matt Bricky from Pleasure Ridge Park out of Louisville. You get to the quarters. You win a 47-second fall over Jason Dietrich, who, oh, by the way, in 98 and 99 goes on to be a 2-time state champion. Jason's review videos are on the channel. Earlier, you talked about a Campbell County wrestler in the semifinals. It was Jason Boer. You win an 11-3 decision over Jason, and he comes in third place. You get to the finals. You're coming in undefeated, 40-0. You're wrestling Trey Wilburton from Louisville Trinity. Now, had you wrestled him before? Had you wrestled Trey before?
I had not.
Okay. Your second time in the finals. You're coming in with an undefeated season as a junior. You're coming in this year undefeated, knowing win, lose, or draw. This is the last time you get to wrestle for Henry Clay. Last time you get to have Coach Powell, Coach Headley, maybe not in your corner wrestling, but representing the Blue Devils. Did it kind of sink into you, or was it just, I got to win this match, or talk us through that?
Well, I mean, I think it was really nostalgic, but I was also really relieved because the semifinals match I was concerned about, because I had never wrestled him, and he was considered basically the top guy outside of me, and was just a stud. I had wrestled heavyweight and 215 that year, so I was making room. Like I said, in my other previous 160 match, or that year, I wrestled 171 and then cut down to 60. Well, this year I wrestled 215 in heavyweight and then wrestled 189 to help the team out. And so I hadn't seen anybody but the Campbell County kid, and am I saying his last name right? Boer? Or is it
Boer? The bracket has it Booher. So I'm going to have to imagine that's Boer.
No, that's how I remember it. But we used to go to the same wrestling camps, Ken Chertow. And Ken Chertow, I definitely credit him with helping me get good, because I went to him like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade over in Huntington, West Virginia. And I remember talking to Ken Chertow and he was an Olympian wrestler, All-American at Penn State, like just stud. But I remember because he came to the Kentucky tournament because this Boer was one of his top camp students. And
Wow.
so when he saw me beat Boer, he came over and talked to me because he remembered me, but I didn't go there my junior and senior year. I was actually getting enough of my summer wrestling just with what we were doing in Lexington and what we were doing in Woodford. But Chertow remembered me and he congratulated me on beating Boer because he was like, yeah, that's one of the top kids I have at my camp. And it really meant something to me because I had never wrestled him, and he went for like basically a lateral drop. And I was like in a split second, I was like, oh, this is going to make or break the match. But I luckily caught it and was able to just kind of flatten him and then just built from there. So then when I got to the finals match, I wasn't relaxed, but it's like I had spoken to you earlier, like you didn't know if you were going to get your main threat in semis or in finals.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like, they said the toughest guy was coming in semis, but still I didn't want to overlook anybody. I'd never seen this guy in the finals. And so I was taking in the moment, but at the same time, I had never seen this guy. So my focus was more on him and winning than really taking in kind of the nostalgia of like, yo, this is your last 6 minutes as a Blue Devil wrestler, appreciate it. And I do appreciate it because Coach Powell and Coach Headley were so influential on helping me become a wrestler. And every wrestler will talk about how wrestling just helps you get a perspective that you can use in life because it can really help you problem solve in real time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and you earlier in your 96 and this video, you've talked about Dan Carmen. Of course, his brother Drew was in the finals in the 106 or 103 match this year. Dan wins it, of course, and you win it as well. And it seems like, you guys said you've been friends for a while. It seems like a yin and yang type of a deal.
yeah.
Dan was kind of a lighter weight. You were kind of a heavier weight. In Dan's video, he wore, I think it was a Gucci suit. I think alligator bell, alligator shoes. Dan, I'm
Mm-hmm.
kidding. And it looks like you're in a complete opposite environment of
Yeah.
a law office.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, like Dan remembers me as this, like hippie energy worker, and here I am, this Boulder acupuncturist. So this is a great counter to how you see Dan in his law office. I'm just this barefoot hippie in a tie-dye tank top. So yeah,
And I
me and
didn't even
Dan,
realize your shirt was the yin yang symbol. I know that was strictly, I
see,
promise that was the universe working it out. I promise I didn't realize that until you just stood up. So that
well,
I
the,
swear that was not planned. The
the
lead
universe will
in
do that.
was, but your
The universe
shirt
will do
and
that.
what I said wasn't. But man, you can tell. You can tell you and Dan have a special bond there. Now, have you watched your 97 video in a while? Has it been a few days?
I haven't seen it. I remember it because I didn't like my takedown because I had a
Well,
scout
here,
from one of the
don't
yeah
spoil it. Don't spoil it
yeah
for
yeah
us.
yeah. So I don't remember. I remember moments, but it'll be good. It'll be good when you play it because it'll be like when I watch the 160. It comes back in real time, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
now I remember.
All
So
right. So we're gonna pull it up here. The 97 video has a little bit more of an intro to the finals. I left it in like I done with Dan's. So we're gonna get right into it, man. Let's go. Here you guys are standing. Crowd's rocking. Got jams are pumping. Lights are coming down.
yeah, no, it's such a production. It was that's so awesome.
Got the mat lit up and the podium lit up.
Now it's at the Kentucky Horse Park, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
And there you come out. Get the obligatory photo. And this is the match. Of course, you're in that blue singlet again with the gold stripe across the. You can tell, man, this body-wise, you're a lot bigger from last year.
Yeah. No, I mean, I put on some weight. I lifted. I trained. Went up a couple of weight classes.
You shoot in, you lift, get a pretty good lift in return there.
Okay, I like that takedown.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's pretty tough.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That was a man takedown right there. Looks like you're trying to pull that arm through. I believe you guys call that a barbed wire, or maybe a bundle or a butcher.
Yeah. I did that a lot. If I didn't get that, I would usually just let you up, and then try to do it again from a takedown.
You get
okay. Yeah. So
there. And he scoots his way out of bounds. You bet you get your near fall there. So far, you're pretty much doing what you want, or it seems that way anyway.
Well, yeah, it was. I'm definitely feeling more confident. You're seeing me do the optional start here. I was actually known for the optional start. I took a buddy picture in the optional start with one of my teammates. That's how much I did the optional start. I might have to show it to you one of these days. It's literally hilarious. So it's this shot. I felt like I didn't need to. So that me putting that leg in like that, I did not like that way I did that, because I had a college coach scouting me, and that's just bad form. So I really wish I wouldn't have brought that leg. It worked out for me, but I didn't like that shot. I just wouldn't have put that leg down. I still got it. It went my way, and I get what I get here with the pin. I do remember it led to the pin. I just didn't like the way I shot in, because I knew that scout was looking at me. But I'm super appreciative. I love the way it went. I'm pointing to my fans and friends that came out to us. So it was like, I can hear them.
There you go, man. A lot easier than the last one. There you are, getting your medal and your bracket. And that's where, not as long as your 96, but sometimes in wrestling that's good. Now, you seem like you had that one pretty much move for move played out. So does that one kind of play out the way you remember it?
Yeah. No, that one I liked. I was good to see that first takedown, because all I think about is that last takedown, and how as soon as I did it, I was like, oh no, they don't like those moves in college. Just because Coach Headley had wrestled in college and would definitely give me feedback. It was like, hey, don't do that. Like, do this, or like this. Yeah. This is a higher percentage finish. You will not finish that in college. So it went well. I was really pleased, and it felt like a good completion to everything. So it was really good to see that. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, man, it was a great way to end your career. And of course, JoJo wins the most outstanding wrestler award that year. Livingston Merritt wins the quickest pin, most pin in the least amount of time. But there could have been, Livingston could have easily been most outstanding. That performance in the finals, you could have been most outstanding, but it was going to be tough to beat Joe out for that MOW award that year.
Yeah, that was his fourth, right?
That was Joe's fourth state championship. Yep, that was correct.
So, yeah, and so I mean, I was pretty much expecting, and then just to watch him growing up, watching him wrestle, he was the most outstanding wrestler of that tournament. So that was well deserved.
Yeah, man. Joe's and so many people have heard the legend about JoJo over the years, even though you guys are probably about 6-7 years older than me. I'm 39 as of this filming. So the legend of JoJo Carr across the state has always been, kind of like Chuck Norris jokes, JoJo could choke you with a cordless phone, and JoJo once pinned the whole team and with the same move at the same time, all these kind of things. And now with the review series, people is finally getting to watch Joe wrestle, and they're like, I see it. He's as good as advertised. You know, he's I can buy it. You know, I believe that he could have you know, drowned a fish. You know, all these things you hear people say about Chuck
That's
Norris.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and that the good, it's good that you just again bring up just the car influence and how
Mhm.
influential that is. Even though I wrestled for Henry Clay, I wrestled Summers at Woodford, so I definitely got to know Coach Carr, especially because he coached us in freestyle, and so yeah, I got to see just that level of dedication, and it was really cool to see again his cousin David Carr,
David.
just to
Yeah.
watch that and that match this year to see him take it, that was an awesome tournament for him. And so it was just cool to see Kentucky wrestling. And then I think we saw another All American. Was it Stephen Little?
Stephen Little from Union County. Yep.
Yeah. So to see all these wrestlers and going back and like, so I after a couple years of high school so after high school wrestling, I made it to college. I got recruited to wrestle at University of Wisconsin, but I only wrestled there 2 years. I had to bow out because of some injuries. I ended up
Mhm.
having 4 shoulder surgeries, 2 knee surgeries, but it really kind of paved the way to what I do now. Now I'm an
Right.
acupuncturist that focuses on sports medicine, and I'm using all my experience with my injuries to, just start for my career. Um, so it was cool to see how, I mean, you told me, but there's been some other Kentucky wrestlers, specifically, was it Ryle County that Rochelle
Uh,
that was an All American twice?
yeah. Well, Kyle Rochelle from Raleigh. That's correct. He
Yeah.
All American in 2009 and 2010 for Wisconsin, and his brother TJ went to Wisconsin, and he, of course, TJ wrestled all 4 years there at Raleigh, or at Raleigh, but at Wisconsin, but he. You know, he didn't make it on the podium, but still, nevertheless, that's a great accomplishment. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and so we all wrestled for Barry Davis,
Mm.
and I was probably Wisconsin's first Kentucky wrestler. So they were already familiar with Kentucky because of me. I mean, I wrestled with Donnie Pritzloff, 3-time national champion. He was my roommate.
No
Um,
kidding. I didn't know that,
yeah,
man. That's awesome.
and so they probably had some Pritzloff influence, and so that Pritzloff single leg, yeah, wow, like he went on, he was on the Olympic team, and so he
Mhm.
went to Dominic's level, and
Yeah,
so yeah, it's really
absolutely,
cool that
man.
you just educated me on just more Wisconsin wrestlers that came from Kentucky and just how big uh, Kentucky wrestling's getting, and it's
Mhm.
getting bigger. So that's awesome
and
that you're making people aware of it.
and talking about, you know, Woodford County, um, we done the video with Coach Headley there. We made him our 300th video for his time at Kentucky, and we had a match of him on there wrestling from the Bluegrass Games and all that. But people don't understand. You had when Kentucky disbanded their wrestling program in the '80s. You had Joe Carr was coaching him and his brother Fletcher at Kentucky. Joe went to Woodford County. Headley, he was a graduate. He was at Iowa under his Gable, and he come back to Kentucky. So you had Headley at Henry Clay. You had Joe Carr Sr. at Woodford. You had two SEC champion level wrestlers. Joe was a 3-time national All American. What, 20 minutes from each other? What is it? What's Henry Clay to Woodford County High School is what, maybe 15, 20 minutes, something like that,
I
Tom?
mean, maybe the way I was driving back in '97, but now it's probably closer to about a half hour.
Okay,
There's no,
well,
yeah,
still
but it's
30 minutes
close,
away. I mean,
close.
that's, you know, that's crazy to have two coaches of that level, that close to each other, that wrestled on the same collegiate team and are from the same part of Pennsylvania there outside of Erie. I mean, it's crazy, man, just how those two guys were able to build up the state and build up their team over the years and just grow the sport by them sticking around.
It's really cool to see the connection. I knew that they both wrestled in Kentucky and were
Mm-hmm.
both from Pennsylvania, but then just with the work you've done with the series, I've gotten even more information of just how much influence they actually had with just wrestling in the state of Kentucky and how
Yeah.
much they've made it better by sticking around and basically bringing that strong Pennsylvania wrestling energy, because
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania is just one of the strongest states of wrestling there is. And so they brought that with them to Kentucky. And so we got that seed to help, make Kentucky wrestling better. And there's other people, obviously, I was watching some of your video that have obviously influenced Kentucky wrestling, but it's cool how they were teammates and then stayed not teammates, but coach teams and are still like teammates. So they have that bond, but just kept competing against each other. And we always had that connection just because we knew Coach Headley and Coach Carr had that bond. Henry Clay and Woodford County had this kind of like an understanding bond. It was like we still competed and we loved beating Woodford. At the same time, we were kind of tied to this team because of the Coach Headley, Coach Carr relationship. So it was an interesting intertwining, interwoven.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely.
Relationship.
And something that I need to say is, I don't know if you put two and two together yet, but see, Dominic Black, he won his state championship in 1987. Okay, he won it at 185 pounds. So you would have had to wrestle Dominic 10 years earlier, man. Would it have been I'm bumping up, I'm cutting? What would it have been there? Or bring it on, Dominic? Let's go, right?
I mean, I don't know. If I would have had the option to cut, I mean, he didn't start wrestling to 10th grade. So to reach what he reached at starting at 10th grade, it's good coaching, but that's just also just pure raw athletic ability. I think he would have been able to do anything and been a professional at it. And I'm glad he chose wrestling because I would drop that name I would drop the name Dominic Black when I was wrestling in college. And I was around people like the Steiners, Troy and Terry Steiner, Bart Chelsevic, Barry Davis, and they all knew who Dominic was, and especially the Steiners because they were both gold medalists and he was on the U.S. team. So they were like, when I was like, oh yeah, Dominic Black went to my high school, that was definitely like a head turner, like, whoa, I didn't know Dominic Black was. So it was good respect. Like I got credit given to me just because I was associated with Dominic.
Oh man,
but who knows? Maybe
video...
maybe I would have tried to wrestle him. I would have liked to think I would have done good. Who knows? But you never know. But he was probably another Tendai.
did you see his 87 review video we done?
So his is an hour and a half long. I got through most of it. But I didn't finish it. I got to the point where we were starting to get to more of the international awards, but I'm going to finish that up. That was the last one I was watching.
Yeah. Dominic had a lot to go over, and I told him before we started, as with everybody, it's like, man, this is your video, and I want to hear everything that you have to say, if it's 30 minutes or if it's 3 hours. And it's one of my flagship videos just because of the name of his international status, his All-American status at WVU, his Army service, and everything that comes along with that. And I wanted to give the people of Kentucky that may not be familiar, the people that may have heard of Dominic but don't know the complete story, I wanted them to know this is a Kentucky dude. But knowing that Dominic is a Kentucky dude with everything he's done, it's the people needed to know that. The new people to the sport needed to know that you can do it you can get there from here. Just because you wrestle in Kentucky doesn't mean you can't be a world champion. Just because you wrestle in Kentucky doesn't mean you can't be a Pan Am Games champion like Dominic or be a 2-time Olympic trial member. I mean, you can do it. And that's what I loved about his video, is just so much information that he had. It was phenomenal. So David, man, we've covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything you'd like to say, add, take away, anything like that? Tell Dan Carmen you want to send him a tie-dye shirt, or?
Yeah, I'll probably say hi to the Carmens. They just came to my brother's wedding when I was back last month, but get Drew on there. I can't wait to see his review. But just what you've done with Kentucky wrestling has brought me back into wrestling, I feel like, because I'd say I'm actually grappling again because of jiu-jitsu. And then because of your channel, I found Brandon Reed, who is a great Kentucky wrestler and is actually really going to be doing well at jiu-jitsu. He's really young and has already took third at like the ADCC trials and is going to do really well. So it's kind of weird for me to kind of get back into grappling with the jiu-jitsu and I'm seeing other wrestlers that do it, like George Burke is really into it. I'm sure when I go back to Kentucky and I find him, he's gonna love choking me out. But
Yeah.
it's cool getting back into grappling or wrestling, and then to have to not feel the same feelings. But when I go and review my high school wrestling state championship video, it's like, oh wow, it's like I'm reliving the past. I am kind of grappling again. It's not at that same level, but it's all these events kind of came into my life this last year that I started participating, and I'm actually going to start coaching wrestling again. And
Wow.
so, yeah, it's cool because I do like jujitsu. It's its own thing, but again, it reminds me of my roots. I'm a wrestler that goes and does jujitsu, so they all see this wrestler and like, oh god, he's just wrestling. But getting back into coaching, uh, seeing videos like, Coach Headley, Coach Powell, but just to give something back. So now when I'm going to get back into wrestling, I want to start young and just really just help with the mindset and the determination. If anything, that mindset is just don't give up. You fall down 8, get up 9.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best things that I can credit wrestling with giving me is just determination. So thank you, wrestling.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And you mentioned Brandon Reed, 3-time NEIA heavyweight national champion from Lindsey Wilson, and Brandon's doing seminars all over. He does seminars all over the place. So yeah, he'll be a force to be reckoned with as long as he chooses to stay competitive grappling. Man, he's an absolute animal. And I'm glad that you found him through this channel. I'll have to make sure I send this to him and say, man, you gotta watch this, man. You get a pretty good shout out. So,
Yeah.
man,
Go Kentucky wrestling. Just any way Kentucky wrestling can represent. It's cool seeing that the girls have a division now because that's long needed.
that's something that people have been around for a while, whether they're coaching, officiating, or just as maybe they wrestled in school and kind of just a spectator, just kept up with a certain team or certain area. There's always been good wrestling, maybe not world caliber level across the board, but there's always been great wrestling in Kentucky. And it's just been hid for too long. Now people are finally starting to see it. And I couldn't tell you the number of people that have reached out from other states. We've had, I mean, you name a state, chances are somebody has reached out to us and complimented the channel or said, hey, thanks for doing this. This is great. Really appreciate it. Even though we don't know any of these people, it's cool to watch it. But you hear people talk that Kentucky may not have the depth as like your Iowas, your Pennsylvanias, Wisconsin, Michigan, as far as like 3rd through 8th. But when it comes to like our top 1, 2, or 3, we're as good as anybody. The depth is what gets us, but the depth's growing. I mean, it truly is. Now I would put Kentucky probably in the top 15 of best wrestling states in the country. We still got a ways to go to catch some states, and that there's no secret there. I mean, there's just like you said, Pennsylvania is always going to be probably a better wrestling state than we are. But as long as we keep growing, we keep progressing, and the high schoolers, the middle schoolers, the elementary school kids, as long as they're getting better and maintaining a love for it, that's all we can ask is just keep growing it, giving them the opportunity,
Yeah, well, I mean, you're building so much momentum for these kids that are getting into wrestling, and wrestling's gotten bigger. Wrestling's way bigger than when I was wrestling, and it's because of MMA and jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And then both those sports just shine the light on how important wrestling was because they all credit wrestling with being the foundation. And so, if anything, there's more wrestlers now than we've had in I think 40 years. And now you add the female division, and so wrestling's riding this rise of popularity. So the timing of you also having all these videos out is just really good to help Kentucky wrestling grow. So again, thank you, Alex, for everything you're doing, and just keep up the good work, man. Yeah. So for my senior year, I mostly wrestled at the 215-pound weight class. I did compete in state at 189, but it was really after most of the season was wrestled with 215. And so I was able to train with a lot of heavyweights, specifically Pat Wilkinson, but his younger brother, John Paul Wilkinson, also wrestled 189. And so I ended up switching weight classes with John Paul when district started. And I just wanted to give a shout out to John Paul because I found out recently that John Paul had passed away from complications from a traumatic brain injury. So I just wanted to honor John Paul and pay reverence and my condolences to the Wilkinson family. So the 215 weight class taught me a lot because I had to wrestle with bigger people and it made me more aware. And then when I got to 189, I noticed there was a big difference with the moves that you could use at 189 compared to 215. And so I really appreciate that because when I got into college, you had a combination. It was like, oh, they were the strength of 215. It could move like 189. So it was quite challenging and quite humbling. And yeah, with the way the 189 season went, I really just went where Coach Headley and Coach Powell told me, and they told me 189 would be my best opportunity if I wanted to wrestle in college. So that's how I chose to take that weight class for that year.
Awesome, man. That's a great piece of advice that the youngsters, the high school age kids now can watch and look and say, hey, maybe my body is better. I might be more, not maybe as strong at 215, but I know I can move better and my technique's better at 189, or now I guess it would be what, 195. So let's look and see where it would be now as opposed to what the old 189 class. So that's a good piece of advice, man. So you got anything else for us?
Well, yeah. Through my experience of wrestling, I also experienced a lot of injuries, and that actually led me to my career path. I was only able to wrestle 2 years in college. I had to bow out because my body started not cooperating. I ended up having 4 shoulder surgeries, 2 knee surgeries, on top of some other things. But it set me up for my career path. Now I'm considered a holistic healer, but really I just call myself a hybrid healer because I'm looking to help you with whatever's available with the least amount of side effects. So I really don't care where it came from. I just wanted to get you good results. If you're interested in learning about what I do, just go to my YouTube channel, Cultivated Healing, or my website, cultivatedhealing.com, and you can find out what I do. And it's got some information about how to contact me, and we can just go from there.
Yeah, man. I mean, not just with wrestling, but just about any high school sport or any sport for that matter. I mean, you play it long enough, you compete in it long enough, you're going to have injuries. They don't bother you so much when you're in your teens, but when you get in your 30s, in your 40s, 50 starts creeping around, you can be like, oh my God, I remember that time that Dan Carmen slammed me, man, my shoulder's still killing me all these years later, or, it happens, man, injuries, especially I think a lot of our, I don't want to use the word senior, but